everybody. Welcome to Bridging the Gateway Experience and Intuition. And I'm thrilled that you're here. But to make everyone feel a little uncomfortable, I thought we might do quick group intros, but just in the chat. So you get two options because not everybody's from TikTok. You can either throw an emoji in the chat about how you're feeling right now. Or if you want to put your TikTok name, that would be awesome too, to like put a kind of a face to the name, but also so that everybody else can be like, oh, I know who that is if you comment on stuff again as well. So trying to like bring everything into a community here. So I want to see, let's see, what do you guys have in the chat? I haunt TikTok. I know most people don't. Awesome, Jen. Love it. Thank you guys. Oh, that's so cool. Alex. The Lindsays are here. It was so funny. I saw Lindsay's iPhone pop up and I was like, is that my iPhone? I love that. So then the next thing I wanted to talk about is ground rules. Now, if you've ever been on a Zoom event with me, I kind of like to say that like the Zoom chat has, or the meeting chat has a life of its own. And I love that. So feel free to have like side conversations. Feel free to throw your questions in there. If things land and you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, or this happened to me, and whatever, share it here in the chat because it's so great to, I think, I think it's really great for other people to feel like they're not alone in some of these things. And in my space, I like to say that sometimes half of my job is just making people not feel like they're crazy because of the kind of area that I work in. And I think it's just a really great place for us to create community. And then lastly, I'll say about the chat is if you can help somebody in there, help them. If they're wanting to know where to find something and you know where to get it, like feel free to like take the lead and drop the link in there or provide feedback, whatever you can do to help, because everybody comes together and you bring your own set of wisdom. You have your own wisdom and your own background that you never know when that might come in handy. So just know that you have the capability to like jump in whenever you feel like the time is right, but also like make friends, laugh, joke, do whatever you want. I'll be checking the yeah, and that's the thing. Teresa was like, I haven't started the tapes yet. And that's what a lot of people were telling me. They haven't started the tapes yet and they're interested. And so that's why they're here tonight. And so I'm excited to sort of do this kind of beginners, because I'm not even through all of them. I've just been so excited, and a lot of you have had such engaging questions that it would be a great opportunity to sort of come together and dive a little bit deeper into everything. So own the chat. I'll be checking in. Feel free to like keep going. We'll have a Q&A at the end. So if you do have questions, know that like there's also space for that to talk through as well. Okay. I told you I'm a talker. Yeah, but you know that because I can't keep any of my TikTok videos like under like 3 minutes. Okay, so quick background. Now that y'all have introduced yourself, this is a whole like trained coach, trained intuitive channel. I work with individuals and spiritual business owners. I love the world of strategy and intuition and trying to find ways to sort of bring it together to really help people kind of get to their next level. But truthfully, my work in the like intuitive and the psychic and the spiritual world was really born out of the idea that I was really tired of it feeling like the Wild West, or that it wasn't taken seriously, or that, people were charlatans. And sure, there are people that are like that. There were no rules. There were lots of, and I'm from Texas, so there are a lot of snake oil salesmen, and just a lot of practitioners, even practitioners I knew as friends, that I was watching what they were doing, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like wild. I don't even know if they know what they're doing, and I really wanted to change that. I really wanted to create a space that was grounded in not just learning some of these higher principles or these, higher, extra sensory type of, like intuitive, whatever gifts, like learning how to do that. I really wanted to create a place that was really grounded and an ethical approach to intuition, to psychic gifts, to spiritual development. And it wasn't just this like willy-nilly, we'll figure it out. I mean, I know somebody who she makes in the seven figures as a like a psychic. And she literally said in a call I was in a mastermind call, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this class. I think I'm just like wing it. And I was like, you're gonna wing it? Like, oh my God, and I think like there's a level of intentionality and like seriousness that I'm trying to bring to this space. Although I'm not always that serious. So, anyways, here we are. But yeah, and just outside of that, like you can go look at my About Me page, talk a little bit more about coming from the corporate world, and feel free to creep on me if that's something that you'd like to do after this. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. So I'm going to do a quick background on an introduction to the gateway experience. In your dashboard that I created, I linked a little like minute and a half video that gives just like a good high level overview of what the gateway experience is and where it came from. But you can totally go down like a YouTube rabbit hole, learning more and more about it. And so this is not the place where we're going to like be watching YouTube videos, and I'm not going to be educating you on the gateway experience. We're just going to do an introduction. You can do that on your own. And then where my area of expertise really comes in is in that spiritual development, intuition, and using those extrasensory gifts, particularly in the meditation space. And it's kind of how we move through the rest of this class today when I talk about removing fear, tips to drop in faster. I'm going to talk about this void space that I use, and then we're going to have an open Q&A. When I talk about removing fear, that came up because a lot of people talked about being scared to do these, I call them tapes. It's so funny because we don't really have tapes anymore, but I still call them tapes, even though they're like digitally in a Google Drive. So bear with me with the language sometimes that I use, but I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about ways that you can start to remove that fear. When I first started even just learning about my abilities and gifts, when I had this crazy spiritual awakening, I was scared all the time. I was a kid who saw things at night. I was terrified to go to sleep. And that carried with me when everything came back again at the end of 2017. And I didn't know what to do because nobody teaches you this stuff. Nobody teaches you how to work in sort of this energetic space that is the non-physical. So I deeply like resonate with this fear aspect that comes in when you're trying something that is outside of the norm of just everyday life. And then again, tips, drop in faster, the void space, and then open Q&A. Okay. So what is the gateway experience? This is a training system. And I think on TikTok and stuff, it really came to light because everybody loves the declassified CIA moment. And I know I did. I'm also watching about aliens and certain things. So, I mean, that's how I think I got drawn in, is the algorithm was rhythming. And I wanted to learn more about this. And so when I asked ChatGPT, what are the two main areas that that the gateway experience like really focused on? This is what it said. But what I think is really cool, and I think I want to just like pull back for a second, is this was developed in the 1970s. Can you imagine? We are just entering this as more of a collective, and we're not even part of the collective. We're probably part of, like, I don't know, intuitively I want to say like maybe 20% of all of humanity, but I don't even think it's that much. I want to say it's probably like 10%, wishful thinking, that is even entering into these hot, like you have to be at a certain level of consciousness and awareness to even be able to be drawn to the gateway experience. It's why the Monroe Institute talks about how they don't advertise, because you have to be ready for this, and not everyone is ready. You are not at a consciousness level to be able to even like understand how to approach this. So just know that if you're here, like, you're ready. This is awesome. Like, you should be proud of yourself. So it was developed in the 70s, and its two main focuses are on altering consciousness. So they use meditation and sound frequencies. They call it hemisync. I like to call it like binaural beats, is also a really common thing that we use. I literally pop them in when I need to focus and like do work. I throw in like a Spotify binaural beats focus playlist because I love, and I think that's why I really gravitate to this, because I love the way that this helps us tap into different altered states of consciousness through frequency. And then explore inner realities. If anybody saw me post about the Pleiadians, little alien beings showing up and giving me a book, but also it helps you explore not just these sort of, I don't know, fantastical kind of things that you hear me talk about. It also helps you with your inner awareness, with your inner development and your ability to expand your awareness and consciousness level. And, you know, and I'm hoping today I'll be able to give you some opportunities to continue that journey. All right, so the fun stuff, like this is the CIA. We're like, oh my gosh, the CIA, they did this. I want to do this, and so here we are. Or maybe that's just me. But the CIA connection here is that they really used the gateway experience for intelligence gathering, and these are the three main areas that we are aware of from the when these were declassified. I believe it was like 2003, if I remember correctly, that this information was declassified. So they began using the gateway experience in the 80s. The focus was, again, from what we know, enhanced interrogation techniques, remote viewing, overcoming psychological barriers. So could you respond, you know, to maybe stress in a different way? Could you, instead of react, respond? Could you think more clearly in high pressure situations? So this idea of like enhancing overall mental and emotional resilience, because we want to have the edge and everything, don't we? So this could be the way. And if you guys are, if some of you are further along, you know that like you could do remote viewing, right? Like that was one of the fun things. And then we're going to talk about OBEs, out of body experiences, a little bit too. So that is the overarching, just high level background of the gateway experience. And what I really want to highlight here is that when I first started, and I even made a post on this and on TikTok about a lot of people being like, be careful, be careful. This person, like they had some terrible experiences. They had the whatever. I haven't been through it, but I know a lot of people who have, and they've had great experiences. So I think you have to discern for yourself what feels right. Whenever we enter into anything from a place of fear, you're not really going to enter it at the highest level. But we'll talk about ways to kind of overcome that. So I think I hope this demystifies a little bit of that this is really about it's not just like altered experiences, going to different dimensions and whatever, all that stuff. It has a lot to do with you and yourself and your goals, and it's a really, I think, a lot around personal development. And so as you're kind of discerning what feels right for you and how you want to take this, I just encourage you to think like what feels right for you and take your time. Don't feel like you have to push or rush things. All right. So with that being said, let's get into the woo a little bit. Although I will say the more that I keep doing this, the less I even think woo is a thing. I think we're going to find over time that our intuition, these like extrasensory abilities that we all have, it's just part of our body's natural technology. It's, you know, we can activate maybe at different levels, different types of gifts, but it's not like just for women or just for men or just for these people, or it can only be done in this specific way, do this process X, Y, and Z. It's a natural part of who you are. And I did a little bit of a processing post on quantum entanglement and our gifts. And I just believe that it is truly a natural part of ourselves that we're reawakening to as you And I think it's like probably reactivating within you even more as you dive into your personal development, because you start to see that there's more than meets the eye for you. There's more than just what's in front of you, and you're more than just what you probably thought you were. Okay, I'm gonna pause really quick before I dive in and just check the chat. Okay. Oh, Alex, I'm so glad you're here. Wendy. So I never put, yeah. Jen, oh my gosh, Aaron. Okay, Teresa. Oh my gosh, I love this. Sorry, I'm like putting Sheldon, I'm like putting in all the like TikTok people together. This is so great. Okay, okay, sorry. Okay, wave 2, track 4. Wait till you get to wave 3. I felt like wave 2 was a little slow. I was like ready to move on. Okay, wave 4. Yeah, Deborah, I love that. Okay, oh, hold on. I'm going to school for physics and I'm discovering more. Yes, thank you. I feel like a lot of people who are working, yeah, Lindsay, I love what you're saying with the quantum entanglement. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, okay. I could like nerd out with you all day on that. Okay. The fear is so real. Oh my gosh, you met your alien counterpart. I love that. Scary. Okay. Deborah said, I heard a lot of TikTok folks saying they had scary experiences with the gateway tape. So far, I've only had, yeah, same. I've only had peaceful ones. I haven't met any guys or entities that are, yeah, same. I think people need to do, yeah, shadow work for sure. We've been groomed to unremember that. Yeah, 100%. Yes, you guys are so on it. Oh, this chat's so good. I love it. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So let's back up. What is intuition? Your intuition is just the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. And I want to stop at those last 2 words. The biggest hangup you will ever have on trusting your intuition is because we have been programmed and taught that we need to logic our way through everything. I still struggle with this. I teach this and I still struggle with this. I am an A-type overachiever. I have had to do so much programming over the year, or deprogramming over the years to get to where I am today. And I will have continued to have to do more like for the rest of my life. But the conscious reasoning is going to be a big factor here, because a lot of times, again, we want to logic our way through life when our intuition knows more than we do. And it's like, I gave you the answer, but you don't believe me. I've worked with clients where I've literally said, yeah, your higher self is basically like, I give you answers all the time, but you don't believe me. So I just, kind of don't really know what to do with them right now. So think about that conscious reasoning piece, because that's really what's going to be the biggest hangup, I think, for a lot of us, is we want to logic our way through our higher capabilities, our even like when we talk about things in physics, there are things that I understood, and then when I read them, and I read them through like a textbook, or I read them through an article, I realized that I was seeing what they were writing. I didn't even realize it. So I think there's gonna be a lot of connections as we start to explore this in ourselves, to realize like how linked a lot of this stuff is. Okay. So we've been taught the 5 senses. We've been taught, what we see is kind of what's out there, but so nobody really teaches us how our intuition communicates with us. Now there's more than these 5 that I'm showing you right here, but I like to just sort of give us a baseline in any sort of like beginner type of program that I do. I really want you to have a foundation just to understand that our intuition communicates with us differently. You may be, and it's common to usually be strong in 2 of these. You may have 3, you may have 1, and that's totally fine. But what I want to point out is you can actually practice strengthening all of these. Even the clairvoyance, where you can see things, see visions, see things with your third eye. It's a spectrum. And I'll tell you, I was telling a client today, I'm not like, it's not like I'm watching a movie screen when I do this work, right? Mine is like, when I see things, it's maybe like 80% at 80% or 70% sometimes. When I like of clarity, it kind of looks a little faded, right? So know that the way this is going to show up for you, whether it's clear sentience, clear empathy, clairvoyance, clairaudience, or clear cognizance, that you'll receive it a little bit differently. And sometimes it can be difficult to verbalize because you might receive information through like three clairs at the same time. So you might see it, hear it, know it. And you're like, hold on, let me piece them all together and then communicate them. I think that's also why, like, a little bit of a tangent. Hold on, sorry, my cat's like scratching to get out. How'd you go? Scooch, scooch. Okay. So I think that's why, like, even in the telepathy tapes, you'll hear some of the kids talk about how speaking telepathically is just so much easier than like spelling. They're like the like language is so limited, and and I think when we start to tap into our intuition, that starts to become a little more clear to us that there's so much more going on that we just haven't tapped into, and language can be such a limiting way to describe some of these experiences, especially if you've had any sort of like big awakenings or any, you may have had your own sort of big psychic, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like, but like a big overpowering experience that you like can't explain because it's just so many things kind of coming together at once. But this is how our intuition is going to communicate with us. And I say this because when you're in meditation and you're working through these gateway tapes, this is how you're going to receive messages. Your clairs, they are a natural tech part of your technology as a human in this body. And this is how you're going to be receiving information. So think about, as you read through this, where do you feel maybe a little pulled towards? I know in the beginning, my strongest were clear cognizance and then probably clairvoyance, but I didn't trust it. I just thought it was like me in make-believe land. So I had to do a lot of work around believing what I saw. So for you and for what you're working on, know that as you sit in meditation, as you go to these different places, as you leave your body, as we talk about the void space, this is how your intuition is going to communicate with you. And it might not even be the way you think it's going to be by reading this description, because everything is nuanced. That's also the fun part of your intuition, is there's a lot of nuance. I think we think that, I don't know about you, I grew up Southern Baptist, not anymore, but I grew up Southern Baptist. And, there's like, they talk about sort of like these big, explosive experiences with Jesus. And, they talk about, just a lot of big imagery. And I thought when I started this that, well, that's how this is going to be. I'm going to have like this big, like blow my mind moment. I'm going to know without a doubt. And honestly, it was building up and starting to build trust through these clairs that actually allowed some of the bigger moments to come through. And so don't sort of get too hard on yourself or like be like, oh, I haven't had these big experiences. And Angela's on here. She's also amazing in this space. She can probably tell you like the same thing too. So know that a lot of this energetic work is going to be subtle. It's not going to be explosive. While you might have these big experiences, the work is in how subtle some of these things are. And I talk about this in some of my videos, but you're building a threshold to understand what that looks like for you. I had to do that with my clairvoyance that I didn't trust. I had to do a lot of work. I worked with mentors. I went through programs, and I needed to work through how to start trusting that more. And then once I got it, man, it was like off to the races. So that's the work that you'll do in this space. Okay, I spent a lot of time on there. All right. All right. But I couldn't tell you all of that and then just like leave you in the dark with like, yeah, okay, but like, what is my intuition? And like, how do I know? So here's a little, just kind of brief, it's not a diagram, but a side by side of how can I discern if this is my intuition and if it's not? And I put the ego slash not self here. I'm not saying you're egotistical if you lean into these all the time. It's just the idea of an ego that wants to keep us safe, or that is really our not self. Okay. So, intuition. It's going to be your intuition usually when it comes first. So, it's quick. And then the ego's going to be like, wait, what? No. And it's going to come in. It's like, no, you don't want to do that. Right. It's going to come in and it's going to keep you safe. It's going to keep you stuck in the same place, even though the message you got was, I don't know, maybe it was like, you're like, should I do this? Should I move to Colorado? And so you kind of like sit there and you ask and you're like, okay, is it in my like highest good to move to Colorado right now? And immediately you get yes. And then second, it's like you get fear, you get no, you get look what happened last time you moved. Everything's gonna fall apart. Da, 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 da. Well, that's ego coming in, right? But your intuition doesn't have fear. Intuition is naturally higher frequency. And it's why y'all, I could teach this for like 4 months. Okay. So it's why we talk about elevating higher frequencies. Your intuition is a naturally higher frequency modality. So part of doing inner work and shadow work, part of the reason people are talking about that with the gateway tapes is because some people are probably going in with fear. So dropping their frequency, right? And when you are playing in the space of fear, you're not really going to get clear messages or clear information. You want to elevate yourself up into the higher frequencies, which is where your intuition is. It's also, if you listen to the telepathy tapes and they talk about the hill. So if you haven't listened to the telepathy tapes, go on your podcast app right now and go download it. You'll love it. If you love this stuff, you'll love the telepathy tapes. And they talk about, actually, it was in the bonus episode because this guy is able to access the hill, and basically the guardian of the hill told him, clear ego from yourself, like heart, kind of like activate the heart, bring yourself into really high frequency love energy, because love is the highest frequency you can get to. And so that's why, we want to do the shadow work, we want to do the inner work. We want to keep peeling back more and more layers. That's how you activate and you access more and more sophisticated gifts and abilities as you do the shadow work, because you're not really controlled by fear anymore. I always joke with people that, like, and you've probably seen these on TikTok where, I always tell people, I'm like, no, I crawled through glass to get here. I'm not happy and confident in doing these things because like life's been easy. It's because I did a shit ton of work and a shit ton of shadow work, and I've had trials and tribulations that I had to overcome to get here. That's what makes me a little more fearless than maybe some people, because I had to go through some of the hard stuff to get where I am today. So I went on a little bit of a tangent, but I hope that was supportive for everyone. So yeah, okay. We're not even to the second bullet point. Okay, it's fine. We have plenty of time. So it's going to come first. It will be quick, and it's usually without emotion. I always like to say it's neutral. And if you get a message, I also want to say it will sound like your voice almost always. So if you're looking for someone else's, like a disembodied voice to like come into your ear and tell you things, or to get messages from your guides, I work with Archangel Michael all the time. His message doesn't really even have a voice. It's sort of, I don't know how to explain it. The more you do this work, you'll know what I mean. Some of you may already know. All right. So it's going to be quick and without emotion. It may not make sense to you in the moment. It's not going to make sense to you in the moment, especially if you're asking about a future focused question, right? Because you don't know your future. And so if they tell you your future, you're going to be like, what? I don't know if I want that. Or, oh man, I can't believe, you don't know. So, or you may get information that's like, hey, go right down this street, don't go straight. And you're like, that's going to take me like 15 minutes out of the way. And you're like, all right, it doesn't make sense. And then you watch the news that night and there was a huge accident. All the roads were blocked. You weren't going to get home, but you listened even though it didn't make sense. So these messages can come through in ways that are in a variety of ways. But the more you trust them, the more you understand that threshold of what your intuitive information is, you are more apt to take action on them. So that's why I keep talking this threshold, like keep practicing and trusting and all that stuff, because then it becomes easier and easier for you to make quick decisions because you know, oh, that's my intuition talking. Got it. I'm going. I'm going to take a right. I'm not going to keep going straight. And then I talked about this earlier already, but that it's not uncommon if you get information or an intuitive message, and it comes in through multiple ways, like you might see something in your third eye, but then you might also feel something and you're like, okay, that's a good feeling. Like even I was talking to my friend like an hour ago and she was telling me this story and she was like, she lives in another country and she's potentially moving to another country and she's kind of worried about it. And she said, yeah, I just sat there and I was like thinking about it. And I was like, I wonder how this is going to pan out. Like I'm a little nervous. And all of a sudden she saw this image and then felt so good. And she's like, oh my God, that was so nice. Like that was that message of like kind of positive affirmation that like you're on the right track, like everything's fine. And that's an example of kind of multiple clairs coming in to reinforce like the message. Okay, so ego or the not self. And if anybody knows human design, you've heard the not self then, but I like that as well, calling it the not self, because it's not our self, it's not our authentic self, it's not who we really are, right? So this is not intuition or an intuitive message if it's negative, if it's harmful, if it's mean. These are all low frequency energies. It can't be intuition by the simple fact that these are all low frequency. Intuition is a high frequency modality or whatever we want to call it. I'll get a better name eventually, but they can't, it by its nature cannot be intuition because it's low frequency. Okay. The idea, thought, message, information, whatever it is that comes through, turns your mind into a thought spiral. And I just think of them as like you're thinking about over and over and over again, and you worry about it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. That's not intuition. Again, it's pulling your frequency down. Just me describing that, it's like the message creates non-action because the ego wants to keep us safe. So again, that example of like Colorado, of like, well, no, you can just remember when you tried to move and you did this and all these things, and like, what about your job and then all this stuff. That's keeping you from taking action. And it's also keeping you, quote unquote, safe. Safe meaning doing the same thing you've always done and not doing something differently. I literally have a client right now who started working with me, decided to make these changes in her life that we worked on. And after 2 weeks, like her life has completely changed just by making small different choices. Like it's crazy when we don't let the ego run our lives. Okay. It may not make sense to you in the moment. And I kind of already said that, so I'll just say it again. Or maybe that's not supposed to be in there. Well, here we are. Yeah, I don't think that was supposed to be in there. I maybe copy pasted a little too close to the sun. So take that one out. But those are the main ones. Think about it as low frequency, fear, harm, negative, like kind of like a bully. Those are not, it's not ever going to serve you in your highest good. None of this will. Okay. So the other thing we like to talk about here too, when you're in meditation or you're working through these gateway tapes, or you're in your own sort of inner practice, inner personal development world. And we want to know, like, I want clarity. How do I know this is true? How do I get this information? It's so simple, because actually your intuitive message is just your higher wisdom, which is why it's scratched out. So the clarity of your higher wisdom is directly connected to your level of self-belief you have in actually receiving it. So if you don't believe your messages, if you don't trust in what you get, what you're receiving, it's not going to be clear. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the more you can do the work to build that self-belief, the belief in yourself that you have the capabilities of doing this, like you are able to receive so much more clearly. And it's a practice. I didn't get here overnight. I don't have these gifts because I just decided, woke up one day and said, this is who I'm going to be. Well, maybe sometimes, maybe you get to a certain level, but for the most part, I've been doing this since like 2018. I've been trying to figure out these gifts I have and understand myself and do my shadow work. So, and all of it, even this is literally something that Archangel Michael told me. He's like, you're not, he said, well, he actually said, if you would only believe in yourself as much as I believe in you, things would be different. He's kind of funny sometimes. But it's this idea of you become better at this, your gifts elevate because you believe in yourself, because you trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you can trust these intuitive messages and you start to understand what they are and you have that clarity. So I'd just like to kind of bring us back again to this idea of you will have more clarity when you believe in yourself, when you believe that you're actually receiving these messages. Because I think a lot of us, we've been programmed for most of our life that we shouldn't believe them, that it's not real, that this is crazy. Like I said, I feel like almost half of my job these days is just telling people I believe you. And then normally it's like, that's not even the craziest thing I've heard all year. So, okay. Oh my gosh, 19 messages. I hope you guys are having fun in the chat. I'm not even going to check it because I'll just get distracted. So, but I see your messages and I'm excited. I hope you're having fun. Okay. Speaking of having fun, it doesn't have to be so serious. Okay. Like I know I'm over here, like we can't have the Wild West. We also should be having a lot of fun. But I want to give you some ways to remove fear. Most of it is have fun. But if you want higher wisdom and insight, if you want to trust your intuitive messages, you have to align yourself with higher frequencies. These are all high frequency ideas and things that you're connecting with. Okay. And if you bring in fear, you're just dropping your frequency down. And I'll say you're not doing anything wrong. I still have fear. I wish it's so funny. Like, I can't even believe I'm doing what I do today. Because if you knew me in 2018, you would be like, what? I mean, I would laugh at you if you told me in 2018 I would be doing what I'm doing right now. It was never in the cards for me to even be doing like intuitive development and working with in this space. Like, it's just wild to be kind of here today. But because I'm trying to keep this to 1 hour. Like I said, I could do a whole class just on this topic, but I'm going to give you 3 areas to start focusing on, and then 1 bonus. So first is spiritual hygiene. Do this every day. This looks like setting good boundaries. This looks like, well, when I say setting, well, okay, we'll get to the setting strong boundaries. Spiritual hygiene is being intentional every day about how you're going to show up. I require all of my clients who work in my programs or work one-on-one with me, I require them to set up an AM and PM routine. And it is usually something like this. They wake up, they do an energy clearing or protection. They may meditate or go on a walk in nature, journal, something like that. And I say, take 1 to 3 things, assign it to your morning and assign it to your evening. Energy protection and clearing is also really great at the end of the day because you've taken on a lot of other people's energy and their crap and they may have attached some cords. It's just like good to clear it all up before you go to bed. And then you find yourself in the astral realm while you're sleeping. So I always say, like, keep up a consistent spiritual hygiene, something that allows you to feel into those higher frequencies. And I'll give you another tool called heart mind coherence. That's like literally a 3 to 5 minute thing you can do during the day that also elevates frequency like in a couple minutes. So this is going to be really key for you, and it feeds into this boundaries. So one of the things that I see so often in this work, because I work with so many kind, loving, beautiful people, is we are people pleasers. We are too nice. I don't know if we're too nice. Maybe more people just need to be nicer. But we are very nice and we're kind and we do and we give to others, and it drains us. especially if you're a parent or manage a lot of teams, you're spread really thin. It can take a toll on your energetic boundaries, your energy field. It can take a toll on your physical health. They're all kind of interconnected. And so, if you can set up some non negotiables around your boundaries, it actually will help you health wise. So, sometimes I do it. It used to be something I offered, but I did a lot of like clearings on people, like energy clearings. And it would be the same thing would come up. I would see energy leaks and I'd be like, hey, this is what's coming through in this energy leak. I'm seeing this. But a lot of it, the leaks are around boundaries. And then what will happen is your energy field will erode and erode and erode. And it opens you up to, like, honestly getting sick. It being really tired, lethargic. And I used to tell people that if you don't know why you're sick or why you're so tired or why you can't sleep, you probably have energy leaks or you're probably not practicing strong physical and or energetic boundaries, and to check in with that, because we give so much that it creates an imbalance in our energetic field and who we are and how we show up in the world. Okay. So the next one, what do I want to do? Inner work and shadow work. Now, we've talked about this, but this is how you're going to build trust. This is how you're going to increase that inner wisdom, build that strong self-sovereignty. It basically helps you peel away all of this old programming, all of the trauma, the ego, all the stuff that's just not serving you anymore, that really is getting in the way of you coming back to who you really are at your core. This is what inner work and shadow work will do for you. Okay. And it is a process that will span your whole lifetime and then lifetimes after that. Depends on where you incarnate next. If it's not Earth, maybe you don't have to do that there. That would be great. Okay. So this is part of that. So these are like the three key areas that I would say from my experience we want to focus on to help remove fear. And I wish I could be like, here's a formula, do XYZ and equals this outcome, and every time you do that you have no fear. It's not that simple. Welcome to the spiritual journey. Welcome to elevating consciousness. It takes real work, but it's beautiful. And the outcomes the further you go, the more you'll never go back, right? Because you kind of come into new levels of consciousness that you just keep going. And then the last thing, and this might be, I think about the gateway tapes when I have this bonus here, address the fear. There was I read somewhere, oh yeah, I saw in like some of the comments that like they were doing out of body experiences, and all of a sudden they felt like an evil spirit behind them or something. And then somebody in the comments was like, oh yeah, I'm a trainer for the Monroe Institute. It's just your ego. Turn around and face it. It's like, that's what it is. Oh, that's awesome. But that's why we do shadow work, because it brings up fear. And so if you can really look fear in the eye, and that's how we get there even more clearly through the inner work and shadow work, you're able to identify the fear even more. But if there is something that you are scared of, journal it out and start digging into why you are scared of it, and really lean into the idea of like, how do I overcome this? What do I need to do? Name it, know it, explore it, and then shift it into something higher. Let go of lower frequencies that aren't serving you and replace it with something that actually is. Because our fear is just really holding us back. Okay. Okay, personal tools. So these are some things that I use every day. I'll be totally honest. I am not somebody who has like a 10-step daily routine. People like talk to me and they're like, I know, but you practice, you do all this stuff. Like, no, I don't. No, I don't. My non-negotiables are a walk in nature every day. That's usually the first thing I do to kind of ground and connect, and meditation and or journaling. Sometimes I don't meditate. I didn't get a chance to meditate today because I was still building this deck, but that's okay. I'm going to be okay. Like, it's fine. We're moving on to the next day. Those are usually that. And then I do an energy clearing on myself. But these are personal tools that I use in this list every day, almost, pretty much every day, to help me sort of be intentional about my day. This is part of my spiritual hygiene. Energy clearing and protection visualization. You can Google these. I have one that I share with my clients. If you want it, just email me. I'm happy to give it to you. And then I like using this language. So I wanted to share this language with you guys if you needed something that sort of was an overarching language you could use to feel like I covered all my bases when I'm kind of wanting to do a quick protection. But I will say the thing I just really like to use is highest, purest good, blah, 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 in my highest, purest good. Even when I teach practitioners, we'll do like readings and then I'll say, okay, is X, Y, like it was like X in your highest, purest good. And then we'll do a reading on that or we'll ask or whatever. So for a protection, something as simple as I choose to be protected from anything but the highest, purest good. Or I choose to receive whatever in my highest, purest good. So setting intention helps us to know how and what we're going to be focusing on for the day. Intention's huge. Intention is like everything in my work, because how are you going to know what the information is if you don't know what you're looking for? Right? So you need an intention. Meditation, if you've ever read, what's it called? The Raw Material or the Law of One. They literally just say over and over again, you want answers? You want that? You want meditate? You want meditate? You want meditate? Everything is go back to your meditation practice. And then heart mind coherence. I'm going to teach you a little bit about that in a little bit. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. 7:50. Okay. It's flying by. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay. So tips to drop in a little bit easier. This is a list. I know. The cool thing though, when I say use the heart mind coherence exercise, you can literally get on YouTube and throw some headphones in and it's like 5 minutes. So know that it's something that you can do anytime. It is a way to get your thoughts out of the mind and shift into the heart, and it connects them. And when you can connect, when you can kind of move out of the head and into the heart, and then you do some kind of like gratitude, loving energies, you can feel your heart expand and it permeates through your whole field. I love starting things. There'll be times like in between clients, sometimes I'll do the heart mind coherence. So this is a huge one. I love because it's simple and straightforward and it takes like 5 minutes or less. Having fun, letting go of expectations, literally feel like I'm just going to play in a sandbox. I've set my intention. I've used my resonant energy bubble thing. Like I've done all the things. Like, let's go have some fun. Like, let's see what happens. Letting go of some of the seriousness of being like, I have to know X, Y, and Z. You don't have to know any answers right now. You just get to go on the ride. The other thing I actually teach cotton ball your brain when I teach channeling. This is how because I am a very active mind. Like sometimes these gateway tapes where it's like active mind, body asleep or whatever. I'm like, you don't want that. I'm already very active in my mind, but here we are. And it helps me to immediately clear my mind. And it is so simple. All I do is I just imagine my brain has cotton in it. And I visualize my brain filled with cotton, and I just sort of set this kind of energetic barrier up. And I'm like, it's filled with cotton, moving on. And I sort of somehow it lets me like not let the thoughts in. And if I feel them kind of coming back in, I'm like, cotton ball. There's nothing in the brain right now. It's empty. Sorry. You can kind of come back to that cotton ball visualization to help your mind kind of see like there's nothing here. So maybe there isn't. All right, grounding exercises. This is huge, especially for my overthinkers like myself. I used to get in trouble with one of my channeling mentors. She would always tell me to come back in my body because I would always like pull myself up and I would come out of my body, and I wouldn't be channeling from my heart. So really a lot of this work we're doing from our heart. That's really like everything we do is from our heart. So pulling yourself into your body. That's why I like a walk in nature, movement, sometimes even just like drinking some water, bringing your awareness back to your body is what will help you also drop in faster. And I'm going to teach you this process here in a couple minutes. So I'll show you what this might look like. Another big thing, again, I teach this a little bit in channeling, but so big because in meditation, we have a tendency to reach for things, or we have a tendency to seek things out because we are looking for some sort of answer. And that actually pushes. So when you find yourself being like, oh, what is that? Or, oh my gosh, is that and you kind of like, it piques your interest and you kind of like, even like go and like explore and look, you're pushing. So you want to sit back like you're watching a movie. And this goes into that last bullet point. You're objective, you're observant, you're detached a little bit. And I just like to look at it from a natural curiosity. You're like, oh, interesting. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Like you don't allow your energy to engage with what's happening in front of you in the meditation. So think about sitting back and receiving instead of reaching, because that will push it away. Whatever starts to come forward as you kind of continue in these tapes. So that's just another tool that I like to talk about because I see that a lot. And I used to do it. Like these are a lot of things I used to do as well. So, it's just kind of part of the process. Okay. Void space. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this void space that I talk about. And if I'm be honest, I use this like every day. And I think because my mind is so active, I needed to sort of send my consciousness somewhere else to like be like, okay, moving on. Like we got places to be, things to do. And it helped me create a bit of intentionality in my meditation practice because I could go here and I didn't feel like I was waiting on something. I could go there, but also wait for something, or I could do something there. It's really a place where I do a lot of my work in. And I go there sometimes in the gateway tapes as well, especially if he's moving too slow and I'm kind of like tired of like waiting around. And I'm like, okay, I did this. I made my light beam. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. And I'll just like pop off and like go somewhere else. And then I hear him and I'm like, okay, I'm back. Okay. So Robert Monroe on out of body experiences. One of the biggest things that I want to reiterate in all of this work, because we grew up in a world that says, fit in this box, be this way, follow this formula, follow these rules. This process, the thing I love so much about the gateway experience is Robert Monroe basically says like, no, I'm going to give you a process. I'm going to give you a space to play within, but there's no rules. So this idea of no rules, no norms, no standards, that you should measure your own experience. Because as you become more and more proficient and experiencing your consciousness as separate from the physical, the method of perception becomes quite unimportant. And it may change from OBE to OBE. And I was like, wait, what? And that's when I realized, I think my void space is an OBE. I didn't really think of it that way. I thought I had to physically have this, leave my body, I don't know, like dance around my room in my like little bubble consciousness. And I realized I'm like, oh, there's flexibility here. That's so interesting. And I love that he's like, what remains important is any experience of your consciousness separate from your physical body is an OBE. And then this is what got me, because this is when I was like, oh yeah, this is an OBE. Even though you may retain some awareness of your body lying in bed or your breathing or your heartbeat. So you don't have to be, your body doesn't have to be like completely disassociated from your consciousness for you to have an OBE. And I tried this out when I did remote viewing. The way that I did it was I was in my void space and then we did like, and if you're not there yet, you'll know what I'm talking about when you get there. I did my like light beam, I did my tube, and then I consciousness, and then I zoomed in and I just watched. Well, I could still move my hands and I still felt my body and I still had some like random tangential thoughts kind of fly through. It wasn't like I think I had this idea for a while that it had to be this, again, see my own programming, that it had to be this just great, like, oh my gosh, like, am I ready for this? And it doesn't have to be so explosive feeling, right? And that there is flexibility here for you to, you know, have experiences that are aligned with your consciousness and aligned with what your capabilities are. So just note that. And I want you to feel like that there's so much more flexibility here and kind of moving through these meditations than you might think. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, you guys. Okay. So here's the process. I will send this to you in a follow-up email tomorrow, along with some book recommendations as well. And I would love your book recommendations. I have a lot of like intuitive stuff, but if there's anything like on like quantum entanglement or like any sort of like more cerebral stuff, like toss it in the chat. I love, please share your book recommendations. Okay. So this is the process that we're going to use. This is actually great. It's actually similar to what I teach my channeling when I teach channeling. So we're going to ground. We're going to come into the body. You're going to take your mental temperature. Your mental temperature is, how's my mind? Am I in a good space? Or am I exhausted? I'm tired. I don't have time for this. But I told myself that I was going to do this and I set this as a goal, but like, I don't know if I can, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. I just need you to, if that's where you, don't do it. Come back another day. Be kind to yourself and give yourself grace. Enter into this space when you are in a really good place, when you do have a pretty solid mental state. You're not exhausted. You're not wired. You're not feeling sick, you know, all that stuff. So that's where we take our mental temperature, kind of do a check-in to be like, am I really ready for this? And if you are, then we go to the next one. So you're going to do a heart-mind coherence to activate these higher frequencies of gratitude and love. You know what? I actually have a picture that's really cool on the right side that I'm realizing isn't showing up here. This is like my favorite picture. All right. Sorry. All right. Anyways, it's like a cool energy body. And I was like, this is what I see in my void, but now you can't see it. But maybe spirit was like, no, man, like just keep moving. I don't know. Okay. So we're going to do heart mind coherence. Now, I'm going to give you the abbreviated one simply for the sake of time. We talked about this. Again, it's hand over your heart. You close your eyes, you bring your awareness from the mind into the heart, and you start thinking about things that you love, people you love, family you love, things you're grateful for. Really bring in those energies as you're kind of breathing. I would say fewer counts on the inhale, more on the exhale. And you let your energy shift into that high frequency of love and gratitude. And then you're going to set an intention or purpose. So why are you going to the void? What's the reason? I'm going to not go down this road too deeply, but the only thing I ask is don't, and I usually don't tell people to don't do X, Y, and Z. Do whatever you want. But I encourage you to refrain from saying, I'm open to anything. Be intentional about why you're going in there. There should be a bit of reverence of this practice that you're doing. When you say I'm open to anything, then like you're going to receive anything, and you don't necessarily want that. So set your intention. And then when your mind is calm, you're going to take yourself to a place of nothing and nowhere. Now, Joe Dispenza, I've never been called to follow his work, but I've listened to some of his meditations. My friend will send them to me because she's very much involved in that. And he talks about this like being nothing and nowhere. And I love that. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm literally going to a place of nothing and nowhere. If you've seen the movie or series Stranger Things, they go to like this black empty void space, or like there's a movie that came out like, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something called like Under the Skin with, oh my gosh, what's her name? Anyways, there's also a void space there. And every time I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a void space. It's literally just this blackness of nothing. and you go and observe. So you find yourself there and you observe. And you observe what comes through, because if your intention is something specific, you might, like, for example, you might be wanting to, like, I do energy healing in this way. So you might bring someone forward that you're looking to get more information from. You might bring forward a guide that you want to have a conversation with, or you want a message from. Allow them to show up. That could be part of your intention. And you watch and observe what happens. Sometimes, just as an aside, sometimes I'm in the void, but oftentimes I'm observing. But I've also, it's been a jumping off point. Like, there was this one time where I went to the void and Archangel Michael was there. And then we were like sitting on the side of a building, and I was like, okay. And then these, sorry, welcome to my brain. Then these goddesses showed up, and I was like, I looked at him and I was like, should I go with them? He's like, yeah, go. Like, you're good. And then we went on this whole thing. So it turns into this jumping off point, but also a place where you basically, it's like this neutral zone where everything you want and need exists, and it gets to be the space or the stage where it all plays out for you. So for me, it's like, it's the place that I get whatever I need it to be. It gets to be whatever I need it to be. And I observe mostly. And I'm fine there because I know I've established strong energetic boundaries. It's funny because I was like, how do I describe this place? And I'm going to tell you another terrible movie, but just like, go with me on this. I'm embarrassed to talk about it, but it reminds me of the Green Lantern, like that movie with Ryan Reynolds that came out like over 10 years ago. He has this ring, and the ring can do anything. It can do more than what he even realizes. It's like his own consciousness and is what limits the capabilities of it. And that's what I feel like this void space is. And it's like a playground you can play in. So this is a really great way to incorporate this kind of practice into your inner work as you're exploring and as you grow in your personal development. It's a really great place to just kind of be like a grounded jumping off point to go wherever you want. So when you feel complete, you feel a sense of completion, like you're done in this space, you'll think, you'll kind of come back to your awareness, send, a message of thanks to maybe whoever showed up for you, the source of guidance, and then ground again. Because again, we've kind of left our body, we've kind of moved into, another sort of realm. So we want to come back into our body and reground. And my most common way to reground is like drinking some water or going on a walk. So, anyways, so I want you to take this and I want you to practice it and let me know what you think. I think one of the things that's really funny is we think that a lot of spiritual, intuitive, and like psychic and woo and occult and all this stuff is like this crazy, oh, they have to have this special formula. And I don't know. I think it's a lot more simple. We just think it has to be something more because we don't have it. Anywho, okay. So we'll do the open Q&A. I'm 6 minutes behind, but I did it. Feel free to follow me if you don't. That's my what do you call it, your screen name, on all the socials. That's my website. That's my email. So email me if you have any questions, you want to talk about anything. I am going to stop sharing my screen so you can see, so I'm not like a tiny square on your computer, but I will send kind of a follow-up to you sometime tomorrow. Hold on. Come on. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wait. Cancel. Thank you for bearing with me. No, where's my, I think my stop sharing is. I promise I've done this before, y'all. Okay, this goes away. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. Okay, we're back. All right. Oh my gosh, there's so many. The feel. Okay. So if you want to drop your questions now that you have in the open Q&A, this can be about intuition. This can be about whatever you want it to be on any of these topics that we've talked about, anything you've seen me present on. I'd love to be able to support you however I can over the next like 10, 15 minutes. Clear empathy sounds like I struggle to. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to read this afterwards because I love to read like all the comments. Okay. So wait, hold on. You guys are so awesome. I love seeing everybody help each other. I OB'd a lot as a young child. Oh yeah. Lindsay, definitely, because trauma, that's another thing why we leave our body a lot. And women are really good at it because we don't feel safe very often. I feel like float tanks. I know. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm like so distracted. Okay. I'm just gonna go to the bottom. Let me see. I want to go through. Okay. I like it. Okay, Gail. Wait. Okay, so that one, I just want to make sure where I'm starting at. Okay. So Gail, I think you're my first question, and I apologize if there's anybody that I missed. So Gail, you said, do you recommend clearing yourself afterwards? What do you mean afterwards?
So like if I do an Akashic record reading or do something like that, that I'll sage or I'll whatever afterwards, that's what I'm asking in the same vein. I mean, I wouldn't be
Absolutely. That's a really great way to energetically clear. You can also do a clearing visualization. So it just kind of depends on the modality that you want to use to reset the space. But that's a great way to clear. If you want to kind of reset after, you open your records, you even do meditation, because you're doing work in an energy field. Okay, Teresa, I was thinking of like and I don't know how many meditations you've done, but before I got into this, they would use movie theaters as an example. They'd be like, go into a seat and watch. And I think it's because of that same idea of separating yourself a bit and being objective and just observing that allows you to not entangle your energy with what you're trying to know and see and learn. So yeah, that is an awesome way. Sometimes I sort of set up my energy that way too when I find myself kind of leaning in. Where did you take classes? Oh, me. Okay, so I started with, I, for like 2 years, only worked one-on-one with a mentor because I was so nervous and I was like, I don't know anything. I had so much anxiety. I felt like, and I had these gifts that came back and I just needed somebody to help me figure out what to do. And I wasn't ready to take classes. So for the first several years, part of my training was just one-on-one. And that's where I learned kind of like some of the beginning things in my abilities and gifts. And then in 2021, when we were all stuck at home, a friend of mine was like, I really think you'd like these classes. And they were group classes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think I could do that. And it was the turning point. And we learned, all these sort of foundational pieces of doing readings for people and doing different types of readings. And the cool thing was that when you do them in a small group, so we would do these blind readings. And the coolest thing, and it was like the thing that shifted everything was, okay, so a blind reading is, she would be like this. And I do this to my students now. Okay, I wrote down a question and I'll either, depending on how advanced they are, we'll say they're more advanced. I'll be like, okay, you have 5 minutes, write everything down that you get and come back. We're going to come back in 5 minutes and you're going to share your reading with everybody. And I shit you not, everybody starts getting the same answers, like everyone. And Angela's laughing because she's been in my classes. She knows it's so crazy. You're like, magic is real. But it's so incredible. And that was the turning point for me when I was able to sort of see my capabilities with other people, that I realized that like, oh, I'm not crazy. I can do these things. And then that's when it was like lightning. I kept doing more and more classes. I I worked like one-on-one mentor with her as well, because there were some specific things that I wanted to learn. And I just kept building and building my skill set. And then but yeah, it was probably like several years of classes that like I took. Well, maybe not several years of classes in that specific thing, in that specific area, but it was the like channeling development, the intuitive and psychic development, and learning these different techniques that helped me build and build. And then once you sort of get this foundation, you kind of like know where to, you kind of have this foundation and framework built that like you just keep going. And then the more inner work you do, the more you get confident with your abilities, you kind of unlock these new levels of your gifts. And that's what happened to me, is like all of a sudden I was like, I couldn't do X, Y, and Z last year. Now I can do this all the time. So that's kind of what happens. And why I think some of us get like addicted to this space, because we're like, oh my gosh, what more can I learn? What can I grow into? So yeah, I love that question. Okay. And how do you know when you're ready to move on to the next wave? Oh, that's an awesome question. I would say, when you, like, part of me wants to be like when you're not scared to. I also don't think that, and somebody who's further along can tell me this, but in my professional opinion, I don't believe that perfectionism is the answer. It's taking, and you're going to build on it. So if you feel comfortable with the exercise in a sense of like, okay, cool, like that was fun, I got that, like let's keep going. If you're kind of in that energy, then keep going. I'd be curious, like what if there's any specific thing you're like kind of stuck on, because some people have reached out to me asking about certain things too, to see if like, did you ever get stuck here? So I'm curious if there's any sort of like trend on that. Okay. And I see that we're at 15 after, so I'll stay another like 5 minutes or so if there's any more questions. But I also like want to respect your time. So if you need to hop, feel free, like you're not going to hurt my feelings. But I'll answer a few more questions if we have any. Oh, the humming. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Every time like somebody posts something new, it like, okay, hold on. Okay. I'm trying to, my little scroller thing keeps wanting to go up. Okay. Clear. Okay. Da, da, da. Where do you take? But yeah, and Lindsay, now I offer those. So I usually, all last year and the year before, I had like Illuminate, which was like an introductory level class. Then I had Intuitive Practitioner 1, Intuitive Practitioner 2, and then we had like advanced topics and stuff like that to help practitioners sort of build that skill set into their sort of practice or whatever. But I've shifted my business model a little bit. And so it's kind of I'm still trying to figure out like where I want to go next. Otherwise, I usually would be teaching these right now. Okay. How much time should we allow for the tapes prep and afterwards? Oh, so each of them are about 35 minutes long. I go to the guide and I read an overview of each tape, which is a little paragraph, to make sure I kind of know what I'm getting myself into. Then I drop in, and then I would say like maybe 45 minutes max. And I recommend doing them earlier in the day than later, because your mind will get you don't feel hyper or anything, but your mind is just like, won't turn off all of a sudden. You're like, man, this is like better than a cup of coffee. Oh, thanks, Sheldon. Okay. It's like, okay. I know. Okay, I know the humming, but my husband is in the room and I'm trying to be quiet. No. Oh, so somebody asked, they were like, how do you hum? Okay. I feel like in the beginning he was like, hum, but open your mouth. So I just do like, I don't know if that's the right one, but like you still get a vibrational effect from it. So, and that does not answer your question, but I have no, I mean, maybe put a like a washcloth over your mouth, or like I don't know. I haven't figured out the right answer. Sorry. I know I do feel like, I hope nobody like walks in on me while I'm doing this. They're going to think I'm crazy. I only have one friend. How do you strike the balance between confident in my practice when oh, that's it. Okay. Okay, hold on. Doop, to doop, to doop. My little scroller thing. Okay, I only have one friend that I can really talk to about topics like this. How do you strike the balance between being confident in my practice when it obviously makes others uncomfortable? That was me for a very long time. And there's a feeling, and I think of like an evolution that you kind of go through where you're like, nobody gets me. I feel like I'm at this level and nobody understands what I'm going through. I can't, like, there's no equal. People are like wanting to learn from you, but you don't have a counterpart to like learn with. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to develop this business and why I wanted to have this space to teach and bring people together. I think it's really important for us to be able to have these conversations and be able to like just be our full self. I would say hold that one friend closely and start opening yourself up to calling in more people. I mean, you're here, like you're with people. So like you're doing it. Like you're kind of, I think, already manifesting some of that. So I would say just keep staying open and discern and develop those friendships. The problem is the frequency level of the world is kind of like this. And when you kind of expand consciousness more and more and more, you find yourself in a smaller and smaller and smaller pond. And so naturally, it is a little harder to find that tribe, just to be totally honest. But they're there. And if you keep staying open, anything is possible. Like that's the beauty of this space is like anything is possible if you stay open to it and open to calling it in. Yeah. Yeah. And like y'all connect if you feel that like private message each other and like exchange like your emails or whatever so you can stay connected. And if this is something that's interesting to you, I'm happy to like host another class similar to this where we can like keep building on some of this stuff. Maybe like next month. This was like my introductory, because I'm not big one either, but it's my introductory kind of way for us to sort of start stepping into this space a little more deeply. Okay. Yeah, same, Lindsay. I think there's maybe, yeah, I love that idea of like maybe trying it without the vocals and seeing how you like it. Because yeah, like I think if we get too caught up in the process, sometimes we lose sight of like the bigger message and the bigger meaning. But we think if we don't do it, then we're not going to get what we need. But really, you're probably already accessing some of this level of consciousness more than you realize. I know, Angela, that's such a good point about all of her cousins being, yeah, it's cool. Like the more you evolve and change, the world will respond to you. It's all energy. So like you keep doing your work, you keep showing up and people will show up differently to you. It's really beautiful. Okay. Let me see. Okay. I think this is it. Is there anybody else? Feel free to come off of mute if I missed you, if you have a question. Otherwise we'll wrap it up.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I posted it somewhere, but I'm curious. There was one time, and I was away from home, so I was able to like really do the experience. And I got to a point where I was experiencing like body tremors, maybe not dissimilar to orgasm. Is this common?
I don't think so. But I mean, that's kind of cool. I mean, wait, did you like the body tremors?
I did. It was unexpected. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Did
not,
it
nor was I expecting it.
did it ever happen again? You said no? No. Huh. That's interesting. Because part of me wonders if you were tapping into sort of a frequency or that your
But
body
it
was
was like a
firing.
full body. It was a full body tremor. It wasn't like
Yeah.
localized.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like your whole body was activated because you were accessing the frequency in your field. Because that's like what you're doing. So I wonder if that may have been what was happening. The other thing that kind of comes to mind as well is that you may have been uh, more relaxed because you weren't around anybody else, and so your body
Maybe.
was like not used to being able to release. And then you got so relaxed with this body asleep, mind awake, that your body was like, whoa, we can't do this. We've never been this relaxed. And it kind of didn't know what to do. So that could also be a nervous system aspect as well. That's kind of what it feels like a little to me, that you were just like so relaxed that your body wasn't used to being that relaxed.
Okay.
That's cool. Yeah, I love that. Okay. Amazing. Anything else? Because I'll wrap up. And again, I apologize for going over so much. There was just so much. So I'll follow. I'll send everybody a follow-up email. Thank you for those that stayed till the bitter end, and I'm just deeply grateful for you. And I will. Yeah, I'll send everything tomorrow. So stay connected. I'll see you guys on TikTok. I'll see you in my email. And thank you so much for showing up tonight. All right. Bye, everybody. Oh, yeah, let me see.